So I want to talk very briefly about the idea of supporting smaller content creators. Now, I know your initial reaction may be, well, wait a second, Dusty, you're a smaller content creator. That seems a little bit biased, doesn't it? And that's totally fair if you have that thought, but I'm going to try my best to kind of remove myself from the examples I'll use and remove myself from the argument, so to speak. But I do think that as a smaller content creator, maybe I can add a perspective to this that makes sense and maybe will click and kind of resonate with you, because basically the whole reason why I decided to make this video is because I was having some discussions with people on like my Twitch chat or just through private messages or just through talking to people in general, and some of these ideas just came up in discussion. And when I was talking about it with people, they were like, whoa, I never really thought about that. And so that kind of clicked with me. Well, maybe a lot of people then haven't thought about this, and maybe this will kind of, help people out in the community kind of think about things a little bit differently. And I don't expect this to be very widespread, but just talking to kind of my followers and my fan base, people who support me and look at my content regularly, this is something to think about the other content creators that maybe are smaller names that you enjoy or what have you, or that maybe you're indifferent about. Just maybe it'll give you something to think about. And also, this is a little bit related to a video that Thorin did not so long ago where he talked about content creators supporting each other. And I think that if you look at that video, I think those same principles apply to the content creator and community relationship, not just between two content creators or through multiple content creators or what have you. And so some examples of this are what I'm going to use is going to be from the CSGO community. And examples that come to mind are people like Stu Chu, who does writing as well as does a podcast with some other content creators in different communities kind of coming together. You have someone like Wallaby Beetle, who is a writer, but he also does like a solo podcast where he talks about topics similar to what I do, what Dust discusses, and what Thorin does with Thorin Thoughts, and many other people out there do a similar format, kind of sitting down talking about a topic by themselves, just kind of making their arguments or case about things. So he does something like that on his SoundCloud. You have someone out there like Drowlin from Unicorn who does interviews and who does different pieces and stuff like that. There's several other people who do writing for like Slingshot Esports and gamers who would also fall into this category that I'm talking about. I also think about people like Stitch and Tolkien Fanatic, who both guys who work with HLTV or have worked with HLTV. I think Tolkien Fanatic worked with their coverage team to help update the schedule on the HLTV website and stuff like that. He also does stuff with Liquipedia for the CSGO wiki. And then Stitch, of course, used to write for HLTV.org. I think he still does a little bit, but they do a podcast together, and it's just them two talking about different topics. And maybe that's not your thing, but they've also interviewed some people like I'm a Pet, the CLG coach, as well as Whitmer and Shinobi, who are people who played for Complexity in the ESL Pro League and just Pro CSGO and NA, but they also have their roots like in Maine and Premier and working their way up. And so these are all people who I see as smaller content creators, but who put out high quality content. And these are just some names, and this is just within CSGO. And I'm sure there's many more names out there. I don't mean to forget anyone. It's just what's coming to me on the top of my head as I'm making this video. Metis does vlogs and stuff like that. So there's different people out there who do content who you can judge for yourself whether it's what you like or whether you think it's high quality content. For me personally, I like this content, and I think maybe other people do as well, but they just don't think about it as much when it comes to like sharing and promoting it, because of what I think might be some type of like weird bystander effect, where you feel like surely someone else will post this on the subreddit, or surely someone else will share this. And so while I do like it, they don't think to take that next step to actually promote it or post it to make sure that other people are going to get the chance to see it. Now, obviously, with bigger name content creators, surely someone will, because they have a massive fan base, and undoubtedly at some point one of those fans will post it on the subreddit or will share it, and it will eventually, people will eventually catch on that content is out there. Or just if they have a bunch of fans, those people will just organically see it because they're following them on Twitter or what have you. But for smaller content creators that don't have as much of a following, it's not going to organically just spread around through it being seen by the massive amount of followers because they don't have those massive amount of followers, and it's not undoubtedly going to get shared or posted around because the fan base is much smaller. So you the fan of the smaller content creator, can be the huge difference maker. You can make the world of difference to a content creator if you see their content and you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to take the next step, just an extra few seconds to post this onto the subreddit, or to share it on Twitter, or share it with my friends, and however you communicate with your friends who are also fans of esports or what have you. you can be critical, because it sucks for a smaller content creator to have to self-post their work all the time. So think about it. If you are a huge fan of a small content creator, maybe take that next step, make sure their content gets out there and other people can see it and judge for themselves whether or not they like it. I think it's important to note here at this time too that supporting the big names and supporting smaller content creators, it's not a mutually exclusive activity. You can certainly do both, right? And certainly the bigger names do deserve more exposure and do deserve their following that they've gotten. They've worked very hard for a long time to build up their fan base, and they've worked very hard to increase the quality of their content over time. And they've been at it for usually much longer than some of the smaller names, certainly. And so again, it's not to take away from them at all, and they deserve everything that they get. And it's just saying that it's not a mutually exclusive thing. You can still support both, and that's really just something you have to kind of think about a little bit. So yeah, again, if you're a huge fan of a smaller content creator, do consider taking that next step, because like I said, maybe someone else isn't going to. You can't fall into this kind of bystander effect of someone else will do it. You can be the one to do it and really help them out, since the pool of people who might potentially do it is going to be much smaller because their following is much smaller. Now, I would say if you're indifferent, if you're a guy who's not really a fan, but you're just kind of indifferent, I would say give that smaller content creator a chance. Check out some of their work. Just, give them a shot. I know it's not your favorite name. It's not the person you're always going to go to for content, but if you happen to see a new name you haven't come across before, or maybe you have come across them before and you've read one of their pieces and you were like, it was okay, maybe check back in with them and see if you've noticed some improvement in their content. Or maybe, maybe that one piece wasn't your cup of tea, but maybe something else they have done is. And so I would say just, give that smaller name, that newer name that isn't as big as some of your favorites, a chance, and just kind of check out for yourself what you think about their content. Now, for those who dislike the content of a smaller content creator, that's totally understandable. No one's asking you to love everything that everyone does. No one's asking you to support something that you don't like. That is not the case at all. All I would ask and all that I would say is don't work to actively sabotage them. Like, if you see their content on a subreddit, there's no need to downvote bomb it just because you don't like it and it's not your cup of tea. I think that downvote abuse massively destroys smaller content creators, because the first 30 minutes to an hour that a piece of content can be up there, if people are downvoting it actively because it's a name they don't recognize or what have you, you crush them. And that stinks, because even if you don't like it, I think that the rest of the community deserves the same chance that you had to decide for themselves whether or not they like the content. You saw it, you decided you didn't like it, cool. Let the rest of the community decide for themselves, rather than completely sabotaging it by knocking it down into oblivion, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make. Bigger content creators, when they have this initial thing happening for them with haters and trolls and stuff downvoting their content, eventually it will still make it, because they have such a big following and a huge fan base, that it still will make its way through, most likely. Whereas for a smaller content creator, since their fan base is smaller, it's really a lot more difficult for them to rise from the ashes, so to speak, of that. And so I would just say, consider, as a person who doesn't like someone's content, to just, sure, don't share it, don't support it, don't upvote it if you don't like it. But, like I said, let other people decide for themselves whether they like it. Don't downvote it into oblivion, would just be my thing. And that really is just kind of going along with Reddit. Like, when you look at the rules of Reddit, kind of like when I was talking about self-posting earlier, that it's, content creators shouldn't be self-posting all the time. And trust me, as a small content creator, I hate having to self-post my own work, and many feel the same way, which is why we try to support each other as best we can. But again, this is out to the community. You can be a part of that as well. Yes, sure, the best will eventually rise to the top. I don't disregard that, and not all people can make it. I don't disregard that either, as far as being successful and however you define success. But I just would say that you can be a part of their rise if you know they're a smaller content creator and you're one of their biggest fans. You can help them start their rise. And so that's really just the most basic way I can put it. I didn't want this to be too long and talk about these topics in great detail. I want to try to keep the video brief, but this is just maybe something for folks to think about. Maybe they haven't thought about this before. Maybe they haven't realized that, their favorite content from a smaller content creator may not make it out there if they're not the ones to share it themselves, because the base of people that could share it is smaller. Maybe people don't think about giving people a chance and checking out new content creators. Maybe people who dislike someone's content but aren't necessarily like spiteful, didn't realize that they're really crushing that person's ability to at least be seen by other people so that they can judge for themselves whether they like it or not. Grant, there's probably still going to be people out there who are just spiteful or who are just trolls or haters that will still disregard everything that I've said, and that's totally fine. But maybe some of the people out there who, like I said, don't like it but aren't spiteful will kind of see this, and maybe that'll make them change their mind. Again, I don't expect this to get really widespread, but maybe just if my closest followers see this and they think about other smaller content creators out in the community that they like, maybe they'll think about this as well. So yeah, hope you folks enjoyed the video. And again, I didn't intend this to be some type of shameless self-promotion or anything like that. I just, I'm thinking about people out there that I see that are also smaller content creators, and I enjoy their content, and I see them getting sabotaged sometimes, or I see that people aren't thinking about, how difficult it can be if they have a smaller following to actually get their content out there to where people can see it and judge for themselves. So that's going to be it. Hope you enjoyed. Please follow and subscribe for more content.